specifically bought Marvel to have a strong IP that they could market to boys and sell merch for. So what was going on here? Why was there suddenly nothing on store shelves for what was arguably Marvel's second biggest brand at the time? Well, even though Fox owned the film rights to the X-Men franchise, Disney still owned the merchandising rights and refused to make any merch advertising their competitor. And that's not even me speculating. Forbes reported that Disney flat out refused to make any content for any of the Fox X-Men or Fantastic Four movies, and one of Marvel's own editors also admitted to it. And so, characters like Storm, Wolverine, and Magneto were replaced by the likes of Black Panther, Captain America, or the Guardians of the Galaxy. What's more, after Disney moved Marvel's animation in-house around 2012, they canceled all of the ongoing animated Marvel shows, including Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes and Wolverine and the X-Men. However, while most of their characters were immediately rebooted into new shows like Avengers Assembled, Ultimate Spider-Man, Hulk and the Agents of Smash, and Guardians of the Galaxy, there wasn't a new X-Men cartoon in sight. In fact, there wouldn't be another X-Men animated series until this year with X-Men 97, over a decade since Wolverine and the X-Men ended. All in all, between the merch and these animated shows and everything else, for almost 10 years, Disney did their darndest to make the X-Men bad business. But okay, it would be one thing if it was just a case of Disney not selling action figures and t-shirts for the new X-Men movies, or canceling X-Men cartoons, or whatever. It might be dumb and hurt a brand that they own, but it's not completely over the top, especially if the X-Men characters in the comics were still getting some tender loving care. Well, here's where we run into problem number 2, Disney's treatment of X-Men characters, and specifically the creation of new X-Men characters. See, it's tradition at this point for every writer who hops onto an X-Men book to make their own mutants, whether that's new students at the school, new villains for them to fight, or just interesting characters to populate the world, right? This is how we end up getting so many characters that become long-running, iconic members of the team. Not every one of them is going to be a hit, but some are, and having new characters for later generations of writers to build upon creates really rich stories. All in all, it's a very smart way to expand the brand. However, if you were reading X-Men comics throughout the 2010s, you may have noticed that there just weren't that many new mutants in the pages. It almost felt like there was some sort of ban on making new X-Men characters or something. And, well, that's exactly what was going on. Chris Claremont, a writer who's been working on X-Men for over 40 years and co-created many of the most iconic mutants, said in 2014 that creatives were more or less banned from making new X-Men characters. Why? Because Disney didn't want to give their competition at Fox any new characters to use in their movies. Talk about petty. If you were reading X-Men comics at the time like I was, this definitely felt true. But even then, that wouldn't make sense, right? It would be like cutting off your nose with an adamantium claw just to spite your face. I wanted some hard data to see if Claremont was right, so I went through every issue of every major X-Men comic book I could find from the 2000s and 2010s, up until Disney finished its buyout of Fox in mid-2019, and counted how many new characters appeared in each one. Basically, I was looking for characters that were original ideas, or tied to the X-Men instead of just crossing over into the books, and weren't just background extras or plot devices. And honestly, the number difference shocked me. Throughout the 2000s, I counted 286 brand new characters. It felt like you couldn't go 10 issues without 4 or 5 new mutants being introduced, and these weren't all just random one-offs either. Many are still mainline members of the X-Men teams, appeared in X-Men films, or remained fan favorites to this day. These characters are important parts of the brand now, and yet, throughout the 2010s, I found just 115 new characters, basically a third of what we had in the 2000s. A massive lion's share of which debuted in the early 2010s, likely before any ban went into effect. That, or the characters weren't even mutants. Yeah, a lot of them were like demons or aliens or something with very little personality created for the existing X-Men to fight. With these numbers, I'd say that Claremont was right. We don't know exactly when this ban went into effect, but there was a sharp decline after 2012. And with this sort of handicap imposed by Disney on the writers of the X-Men, it led to a lot of issues, resulting in major problem number 3, the stories. Because there weren't many new, interesting characters added into the mix, a lot of X-Men storylines had to start looking for other antagonists, meaning that the conflict in these stories saw the X-Men fighting each other, or the Avengers, or the Inhumans, or themselves themselves from the past. Yes,
I'll
really.
take you to see
Basically,
Sora.
anything other than creating new mutants to fight or fight
don't want
alongside.
that.
And this left the X-Men
do.
in an
More than
awful
anything.
place. Enough so that it sure
But
felt
not
like
with
Disney
you
was trying
around.
to sabotage the IP. Some
I
examples,
had a heart,
the X-Men
this would
had
be
a
where I'd
harsh
die of
disagreement over
laughter.
how to handle a mutant attacking the UN, leading to the Schism storyline that fractured the team in two under the leadership of Cyclops and
You.
Wolverine. Slowly but surely, Cyclops
Roxas
became
take care
more
of you?
militaristic and isolationist,
You can take it
and
from
by the
here,
time of the Avengers
Riku.
vs. X-Men event, Cyclops was
Riku.
basically the villain. He killed Professor X and became more and more like Magneto, turning the Boy Scout leader of the X-Men into a radical that most of the Marvel Universe didn't agree with. He was eventually arrested and then died during the Death of X storyline. That's brutal, but his rival Wolverine didn't have it much better. He was also straight up killed in an event called the Death of Wolverine, and his faction of the X-Men were transported into limbo for their own protection. They literally went to hell because it was preferable to what was going on Earth. And even then, less popular characters also weren't safe from this meddling. For
Riku,
example, Fox
you're
and Disney
really
had a
here?
sort of shared custody of Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch due to their history with both the X-Men and the Avengers. But Disney did their best to scrub any history with the mutants off of the twins. In the comics, the pair had famously been the children of Magneto, but that family connection was retconned in 2014. This decision frustrated fans, and frankly, it took one of the most interesting families in the Marvel Universe and broke it up in a way that made very little story sense. All just to be petty to a rival film studio. And somehow, all of that wasn't even the worst of it. That same year, Marvel and Disney created a new Inhuman character named Miss Marvel and really pushed her, enough that she was wildly successful and has already made the jump to live action in the MCU. But get this, originally, she wasn't going to be an Inhuman. Instead, her co-creators wanted her to be a mutant. They've never explained why she wasn't a mutant, but it's obvious that this coincided with the ban on new X-Men characters and Marvel really pushing the Inhumans. And speaking of, oh man, the Inhumans. So if you don't know who the Inhumans are, I mean, that's fair. I'm still trying to scrub the TV show out of my brain. But the Inhumans are a group of superheroes that are feared and hated, born as seemingly normal people, but gain their powers later in life after having their dormant inhuman DNA activated by a substance called the Terrigen Mists. Huh, that sounds familiar. Kind of like how mutants are feared and hated, born as seemingly normal people, but gain their powers later in life after having their dormant mutant gene activated by a substance called puberty. That is some serious, hey, can I copy your homework energy right there. As you can tell, the Inhumans have a lot in common with the X-Men. Disney sure noticed this too, starting to push them as their own replacement for mutants in the MCU. I think Kevin Feige really summed it up best here.
We really do believe that the Inhumans can be a franchise and perhaps series of franchises onto themselves.
Now, if this was just limited to movies and TV shows, that'd be fine. It'd be whatever, right? It would just be another group of new characters for everyone to enjoy. But that's not what happened. After this push by Disney to make Inhumans their next big thing, it started influencing the story in the comics too. In the early 2010s, an event called Inhumanity saw the Terrigen Mists cover the entire planet and awaken all dormant Inhumans. But it also revealed that the mists were lethal to mutants. A ton of mutants died during this time from the mists. This is actually how Cyclops himself died, like I mentioned earlier. All in all, this was just a naked attempt by Marvel and Disney to replace the X-Men with the Inhumans, something that nobody outside of a Disney shareholder meeting actually wanted. Let's just say that there's a reason that the 2010s are called the lost decade of the X-Men. So all of that is a fascinating story, but why tell it? Why should you care about this? Well, for a couple of reasons. The first is something that we always love to do here, and that's to dunk on Disney and just how spectacularly they missed the point of the X-Men. See, the X-Men have always been characters that do the right thing and help people in spite of being feared just for who they are and hated for being born different. It's a clear, obvious allegory for how marginalized people in the real world face a similar sort of discrimination. All throughout history, there have been a lot of bad people who would rather that the quote-unquote undesirables just didn't exist, and sadly tried to make that a reality. X-Men writers have been using those real-world events as inspiration for their stories for decades at this point, with characters and organizations like William Stryker, the Purifiers, the Sentinels, Operation Zero Tolerance, Orcus, and so many more hunting mutants just for being born different, for something they had no control over. And more or less, that's exactly what Disney tried to to do with the X-Men in a meta sense. They hid them, they stopped selling toys, they put a ban on making New Mutants, they pushed storylines that killed main characters or turned them into villains, and they straight up tried to replace the X-Men with the Inhumans because that was more convenient for them. And believe me, if Disney could have gotten away with it, they would have canceled everything related to the X-Men, including the comic books. Around this time, the Fantastic Four, another Marvel IP that Fox owned the film rights to, was canceled for the first time since it launched in the 60s because its sales were low enough to justify it. Disney wanted to kill the X-Men, and yet, despite doing their best to smother this brand, the X-Men still made bank in the 2010s. They survived. 40 of the top 300 comic issues of the 2010s starred the X-Men, a solid 13% of those top spots. Now, don't get me wrong, that's still down from the 2000s, which saw 20% of its top 300 star the X-Men, but that's still incredibly impressive considering how much was going against the X-Men in this decade. And now, after they once again own the X-Men film rights, that they have the entire piece of this pie, Disney is trying to take advantage of the X-Men. I am not making this up, but basically the second Disney bought Fox, the X-Men saw a new storyline relaunch that revitalized the whole brand. All mutants came together and formed a new super nation. They revived all the characters that had been dead for 10, 20, 30 years or more. They discovered a new culture of mutants that split from Earth thousands of years ago and introduced hundreds of new characters. They freaking terraformed Mars. And all of that's without mentioning that Magneto basically made up with Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch and that they're a family again. Or that Miss Marvel died for all of a month and was then resurrected as a mutant. Disney and Marvel tried to repair all of the damage they themselves caused the X-Men because now they positively affect the bottom line.
Come on, Riku.
It's greedy, it's hollow, it's transparent. It's basically like a corporation like Disney changing their logo during Pride Month and selling rainbow merch to make money off of those same marginalized people. Finally, I want to leave you with this. It's fun to dunk on Disney, but what I really want to do here is help you recognize why the stories being told are the stories being told. As entertainment industries like film, TV, and video games continue to consolidate, as the franchises and characters that we love are bought up by the same 6 or 7 conglomerates, more stupid behind-the-scenes drama like this is going to happen. The stories that make it to your eyeballs rarely do so without being touched by someone with an agenda, even if it's just to optimize the amount of money that they make by exploiting or killing the franchises that you love. The X-Men might be the best example that I can think of, but they're not nearly the only one. And I want you to have the tools to recognize that and say, enough. Maybe that's your real mutant power. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. And if you want another Marvel theory right now, check out how Deadpool might just prove that the entire MCU is a simulation.
It's been too long, my friend.
Ansem the Wise, why didn't you come to me before things got so bad?
Xemnas, the organization superior, is the nobody of Xehanort, my foremost apprentice. The burden was mine to bear.
Is that all?
I won't deny there was more. I was obsessed with thoughts of revenge. My apprentices stole everything precious to me. My research and my pride.
I can't help you with revenge.
I know. Riku's told me 1,000 times.
Where is he?
He must be with his friends by now. Riku was a great help to me. I found him wandering the darkness after you and he lost track of each other.
Gosh, we didn't lose each other exactly. Riku left, well, 'cause Xehanort's Heartless was still inside his heart, troubling him. And he sure must have been suffering. But what I don't understand is why he looks like that now, when he's still Riku at heart.
I am to blame. When I met Riku the first time, he still had the appearance of a boy. Probably because he had such a strong heart. I asked him to find a young man named Roxas from Organization 13 and bring him to me. When I told him it would help Sora awaken from his slumber, Riku left without a word. He fought Roxas, and I can only surmise Riku lost that fight. Riku must have realized then, to fight in the realm of darkness, he would have to immerse himself in that same darkness. And when he did, you saw what became of him. When Riku brought Roxas back to me, he was introducing himself as Ansem. If that was what it took to awaken his friend, he was ready to live in darkness. Riku was the victim of my revenge. Oh, how my heart ached. I could only laugh to hide my shame.
I guess it must have been after that when I saw Riku again. He said he wanted to help Sora, but he made me promise. Promise that Sora wouldn't ever find out about what happened to him while he was out in the darkness.
My friend, the time has come. I must make amends to these young people.
Get off! What's going on?
Have you been a good boy?
Show yourself!
Oh, it sounds like you haven't. Sora! Roxas!
Roxas? Hey, did he just call me Roxas?
You really put Organization 13 in a pickle. I guess that must be why the Keyblade chose you. But man, did it pick a dud this time. You don't look like you're half the hero the others were.
Are you done rambling?
Rambling? As if. All I'm trying to tell you, traitor, is that your time is up.
Here he comes!
You really shouldn't have betrayed us. Gotcha now!
Ow! Wah!
You clever little sneak! Heads up!
Oh!
Reload! Okay, now I lost me.
Why did you call me Roxas?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Hey, hold on!
Sora, it's tiny.
Uh-oh, they need our help.
Sora and Rico are together. We have no part to play here.
Gee, I wonder if Riku will ever change back.
Rico chose that form so he could use the power of darkness. It won't be easy.
Kairi, we're on our way. Yeah!
It says there was a card shipped to you 4 days ago.
You receive me with a new card.
That's a list right here that you're... 4 days ago they got a card shipped.
Well, I don't have it.
And you're sure? I definitely know that by that they didn't order a new one.
Oh yeah, I did. You know why? I had a block somebody doing something, and then I seen another charge coming in from Christian bookstore, and I didn't order anything, especially that early in the morning. So I blocked that too and told him I better get another number. Because somebody's monkeying around.
Once the card comes, like on the app, luckily you can like instantaneously lock and unlock the card. So until it comes in, I purposely locked it.
Well, how am I supposed to use my money?
Unlike NetSpend, there's a little toggle where you can switch off locking.
I'm trying to use it right now, and I need to know the number and my CVC. Because it didn't take when I just put it in. Unless this is wrong.
Oh, the wizard?
Yeah.
And your current one doesn't match the last four
I
numbers.
don't know. Will you quit yelling? Mom doesn't really need to know. Thanks, Big Mouth. Never keep it down. Don't need to talk about this word. You can hear. Yeah, I use this and I put in 054 and it said good. So that's why I'm asking what the number was. Is that correct?
Well, it seems like NetSpend wants to. It seems not NetSpend. It seems like the cash app wants to go to your freshly requested.
But I don't see it. Megan didn't bring me no card. I don't got any card.
I was just seeing if there was a little bit in there.
She puts it over here. Really gonna be down over here. Well, then I guess that.
Hey man, my card's still good. Huh.
You don't have 10.
I can have you send money to me and I can really borrow my card.
I might send money to send money to. If it didn't work on this, why would it work on that?
Actually, it has to be 11 because of taxes. Because they still charge, well, they charge taxes on the sites.
Not really. Not when it's just I just did it twice. 3 times. $10.
Oh no, there's tax involved, so.
There ain't. Where they show you here. Free or not good. You could send it, then send it. One way. running a chance, Mom. Think it out. Especially when you start talking about that door does not block anything. Yeah, 'cause that's not something that. Oh, well, I guess I owe you 63 cents.
Should I, before you purchase, should I just send the extra cents?
I guess so.
It won't allow that just a call.
Give yourself $1. Sometime when you got 37 cents, you can just let me have it. Whatever that is. Probably cost me another $1 though, giving you $1 million.
I don't know, I thought transferring between cash out accounts
Done, man?
after free purchase. And there you go. And see, it mostly balanced back to what I already had on Fortnite.
Except for the change, right?
Yeah.
Really isn't any big deal.
Yes. Kingdom Hearts. Rejoice and feast on these hearts we offer. Shine your pale light on this empty realm. Share your power with all nobodies.
Xemnas, is Kingdom Hearts ready?
Very soon.
Then I can end this charade?
Indeed.
How I've waited to hear that.
Tiny, you are great!
Oh?
You are different, Kairi, but I'm just glad you're here.
You and Riku never came home, so I came looking for you.
I'm sorry.
This is real.
Wait, Ansem! I mean, Xehanort's heartless. I never thought for a second that I'd ever see you again. Just thinking about all the things you did makes me really mad. But you saved Kairi, right? I have to be grateful for that. Thanks.
Riku, don't go!
Huh?
Kairi, what did you just say?
Riku.
I'm no one, just a castaway from the darkness.
Sora, come here. Say something to him. Here. You'll understand. Close your eyes.
The three again reunite, but yeah, Riku is not exactly dead. It's just that they're so persistent
Riku!
as nobody version.
It's
But
Riku. Riku's here. I looked for you.
Come on, Sora.
is Sora's,
You've got to pull it together.
Riku and
I
Sora
looked
become
everywhere for
friends.
you.
And
I didn't want you to find me.
Sora.
But it was him that was helping us, wasn't it?
Sora is
Those
most
clues we
favorite
kept
character
finding,
of
that
Kingdom
must have been
Hearts.
Riku.
I was starting to worry you guys weren't ever gonna catch on. Sora never did pick the brightest friends.
What do you mean by that?
Why didn't you let me know you were okay?
I told you. I didn't want to be found. Not like this. I couldn't. I fought with Ansem, with Xehanort's Heartless. When it invaded my heart and I won. But to use the power of darkness, I had to become Ansem myself.
Does that mean you can't change back?
This battle isn't over. And until it is, I still need the power of darkness.
Then, let's finish it. You're still Riku, no matter what. So how about it? Think we can handle one last rumble together? The king's waiting.
Yeah! Let's get going!
This spot should do.
What's this gadget for?
It's a device to reclaim Kingdom Hearts and encode it as data.
Not sure I get it.
I do not claim to know the outcome of this venture either. After all, hearts are unpredictable.
If you just check up on things, it's on there. Well, I was looking through my head just, like, I know you may be just doing dailies.
Yes.
What's that?
It's the king and Diz. I mean, Ansem the Wise. They must be higher up. We better hurry.
You!
I'd rather we just skip the formalities. The first to run out of time is the loser. A challenge, is it? A challenge, is it? A challenge, is it? A challenge, is it? Cards! A challenge, is it? Look closely. Look closely. Look closely. Cards! 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 A challenge, is it? Do you know the rules? Cards! Cards! A challenge, is it? Cards! Challenge, is it? Cards! challenge is it? Cards! Cards!
Yeah!
A challenge is it? Cards! Look who's on top of the game! Scatter! Hold! Sora! Do you know the rules? Don't squander your time. Don't squander your time. A challenge is it? Don't squander your time. 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 A challenge is it?